So hi everyone, I'm Mia. I was going to put up a slide there introducing me, but I thought the last thing you probably need is a huge photo of my face, given you're going to have to see and listen to me for the next half an hour, so I'll spare you that one. Before we start, do we have any product managers in the room? Yes, one. Or anyone that's become a de facto project manager on a given piece of delivery. Yeah, that's what I thought. So maybe a little bit more relevant stuff in here for you guys then. So a little bit about me. I've been a PM for about 5 years now. As Hannah said, I currently do product at Container Solutions. I've worked across a variety of different B2B applications, SaaS tools, from web applications, mobile applications, complex developer tools, and now cloud-native platforms and services. I actually had no intention of getting into tech or software development. I was working in retail when I decided that I really hate dealing with the general public. So I sought out a fun office job and kind of transitioned into the startup world by accident. I started as a community manager for a startup space that looked after, a co-working space that looked after startups, and got poached by one of my favorite teams and went from customer success into product, and here we are 5 years later. So I'm actually quite new to SRE, given I mostly come from a small application team development background. But in my kind of brief time in this, I've noticed how applying SRE principles in the context of product management actually makes you a much better PM. So today I'll be digging into what I've learned and how getting things pretty damn wrong in the past made me realize how valuable some of these principles are to both general product management and SRE teams. So given we are, just gonna preface, I do swear mildly in this, so I hope that's okay. Given we are no longer in the fuck around and find out era of technology, you can't really just throw stuff at the wall and hope that it sticks. There is an expectation around how software should function, how it performs, and most importantly, that it's solving real problems. I am a product manager, so I have to say that. SRE principles enable us to solve these problems reliably. Some of these principles overlap with key parts of product management, so given reliability is such an important piece of delivering successful products, PMs are some of the best allies for SRE teams. In my experience, the 3 focuses that enable you to build reliable products are collaboration when setting goals, building roadmaps, and planning development in general, using metrics that deliver real results, and building and planning with empathy, essentially the overlap with observability and DevX. Regular feedback loops, clear communication, and achievable goals set your teams up for success, as well as utilizing data to support these decisions and avoid assumption-based development. I really hope everyone here likes The Emperor's New Groove, because you're going to see a lot of this for the next 30 minutes, because Yzma is my favorite villain, and Cusco's kind of journey in collaboration and empathy kind of mirrors this a bit, but it's tangible. So when building a product reliably and sustainably, collaboration from the whole team is necessary to maximize value. Remember that you are not the smartest person in the room, and you need the skills and the expertise of your team. A dogmatic approach doesn't get us anywhere and often increases costs and leads to overall team frustration. Delivery, design, product, and engineering always need to be aligned. Aligning your team, working closely with them on roadmaps, feature development, and problem solving enables innovative ways of thinking, which is key for scaling products reliably. I put the wrong word in there. That's what I get for tweaking my talk last minute. So engineering here is also speaking to SRE teams. So at the end of the day, no platform means no product, and you can't really build that without your team. Reliability starts with the right planning and process, so setting your teams up for success is imperative. Building a culture of regular feedback loops with clear communication and achievable goals means you foster safe spaces for innovation. But this includes clear company mission with strategic goals, and having these established prevents you from straying too far away from what it is you need to do. If this isn't clearly defined and communicated and understood across all of your teams, you need to start there. Me and a previous colleague kind of used to say that PMs are like the API of a business, with like taking in all the business needs and the user needs and the technical requirements and then putting them into something that's workable and actionable that people can actually use. So at the end of the day, we're responsible for shaping how your teams work together and defining how everything works and kind of holding that space. I find it's best to start with defining your ways of working and setting the tone of how you're going to collaborate together. So spend the time to get to know them as people, their strengths, their weaknesses, and how they like to work. If you're in the office, what days would you like to be together? If you're remote, when do you want to work asynchronously and when do you want to pair? What methodologies are you going to follow? Set a cadence for how the process works and how your team is going to collaborate, and do not force them into a mold that doesn't fit. It only constrains them, it doesn't enable them. Within that, don't be afraid to try out different approaches until you find the thing that sticks. I'm just going to have a quick bit of water before my mouth dries out. The typical Agile ceremonies follow 2-week sprints with bi-weekly retros, kickoffs, and reviews. And most of us follow this method. But this didn't actually work for all of my teams. One of my teams was getting nothing out of sprints. Our velocity was all over the place, there was fear to take ownership, we were scared to estimate accurately, which caused tickets to constantly carry over. They were often relying on being told how to do things, and the changing business needs meant we often had to move tickets around once the sprint had started. So we decided to move to Kanban to encourage developer ownership, alleviating the constant changing of goals, and improve morale impacted by having these uncompleted sprints. We moved to weekly cycles with refinement sessions so that we were able to start recalibrating effort and having a realistic idea of what this looks like for a given week and plan more effectively. By changing our process, we also highlighted the need to rebuild our CI/CD pipelines so we could actually change our tooling and make that a lot more efficient. Over time, we were able to build more reliably and ship faster with less errors. The changing business needs and lack of strategy was a whole other issue, which we won't go into now. But the next part of that is starting something new. So are you? When you're embarking on a new project, feature, product, whatever it is, you really need to spend the time thinking about what you're doing and why. Collaboration through effective workshopping is pretty key here. It allows you to spend time on problem discovery, framing, and subsequently building out a well-prioritized backlog and roadmap. You want to make sure you have input from the whole team by setting up your activities in a way that allows you to hear from everyone. We use Miro to do this, so with each activity, we give each person a set amount of time to write down their ideas, thoughts, and contributions, then one by one feed them back to the group, collate them on the board, and then identify the common themes across all the contributions. This mitigates the loudest person in the room scenario, and I know you all know what I'm talking about, and allows unification across every person's contributions by aligning them in a centralized format. And it also removes the individual bias. If you want to understand a little bit more about effective workshopping, go check out Pete's talk at 2 p.m. today. Woo, Pete! And he will tell you how to make your workshops suck less. Once your problems are defined, you're in a much better position to build out your roadmap. Multiple eyes and skill sets cover a broad range of factors that need to be considered when building out the whole solution. This includes how it will work, how success is measured and tracked, and how it performs under pressure. All of these factors need to be baked into the requirements and general practice so things are less likely to slip through the cracks. Otherwise, you risk accumulating way too much technical debt, which will only slow you down later. Next, you want to make sure you've set and assigned your team's responsibilities. Things go wrong all the time. Your teams need to know who's accountable and how they can bring important issues to the right place to get them actioned as soon as possible. You want to discuss the highest risk areas, what actions they need to stay accountable, what the escalation process is, and who's going to own them. Write down your process in Confluence, stick documents on the wall, draw charts, create a Miro board, whatever works for you. Personally, I found the best way for my teams is to document RACI matrices on Confluence, but whatever it is, just make sure it's documented, and I cannot express this part enough, be explicit. So there's never any doubt over who is accountable for what, so much so that people outside of your teams actually know what's going on. As much as it's important for your team members to know what they're responsible for, it's also important for your organization to have visibility of how this works. So this is what I've observed to be the building blocks for effective collaboration. Define your mission and purpose, know what you're trying to achieve, plan effective workshops that shape your roadmap accordingly with ways of working that allow you to stick to them. Document and over-communicate every step of the way and push back when things aren't clear or strategically thought out. Take input from everyone and build out your roadmap and backlog, and this mitigates risks and allows you to execute against your company mission effectively. Tracking the right things. Data can be used to back up everything from team happiness to product performance. One of the most important aspects of SRE is observability, which is crucial for ensuring the health of your product or service. As PMs, it's important to measure the right things to avoid assumption-based development and use data to back up your decisions. Regularly tracking metrics and using data to make trade-off decisions allows you to deliver real results. So what do we track? In my experience, we often fall into the trap of wanting to track everything and have no idea what we're looking at. Not only that, but we end up measuring the wrong things or use too little data to back up our decisions. Story time! Thank you, Kuzco. It's not a platform example, I'm afraid, but it does speak to my point. My first project as a PM was building an existing mobile app from scratch. The existing app was built in a language that was now deprecated, and we needed to build a new one that we could build on going forward. It was a huge strategic goal for our company. The app was a tool for employees to check their shift work, schedules, booking time off, et cetera, et cetera. And we unofficially defined success with things like 5.5 stars in the App Store. It's faster, it looks nicer, it's easier to use, people spend more time in the app. But we didn't actually spend the time to understand exactly what the primary purpose of the app was for at this point. A tool they had to use to work to manage their time and provide visibility of what they're doing. As a work tool, it needed to function smoothly or it would only create frustration. In the end, sure, we achieved our main goal of building this new maintainable app that we could build functionality into later, and it worked. But the real marker of success compared to our old app was being able to do these tasks quicker than before, given the MVP was built to feature parity. We were not only not tracking this, but we were also measuring the wrong thing and had nothing quantifiable. As a result of this, we missed that a large number of users were falling off immediately when signing in due to crashing issues and loading issues. They also weren't accurately tracking the user journey of how these tasks were being completed, if they even achieved them at all or quicker than before, and in a lot of cases, they weren't. Not only did we miss major performance issues in our too-short beta testing, we launched the app and brought it to market with them. This meant that we had to spend more time resolving performance issues, usability issues, and compatibility issues, and building in systems that allowed us to see these things when they fell down. And it meant that we had to leave the old app running for months before we could switch about 30,000+ users over to the new one, so not so great. It was really costly to the company. It was demotivating for the team, considering all the work they'd put in to get there. So if we'd been tracking the right things from the start, we probably would have missed this and avoided a lot of drama, I would say. Defining good metrics is only the first step, though. The other part is making sure that these metrics are observable and measurable over time. After all, you can't improve what you don't measure. For me, the 4 markers of a good metric are that it's understandable, so anyone in your organization can clearly know what's going on. It's comparative, so you can measure it over time. It's quantifiable, so a ratio, a percentage, something that allows you to measure that comparatively against previous data so you can trend it. And that it supports decision-making. It empowers you to take action or know when to leave things as they are. I would also suggest setting a cadence for reviewing your metrics periodically and determining how things are trending. Assess whether certain metrics are the right things to keep tracking or not, and if you need additional data to gain a more comprehensive understanding. However, data must also be contextualized within wider goals. So, very rudimentary example here, but say you've got 10,000 new paid users, but out of 80,000, that isn't really a measure of success if your goal is to convert 70% of them to paid subscribers. By focusing only on the first part of, yay, 10,000 new paid users, you miss the insight that you might need to get to actually dig into the part that's not working. By contextualizing data within a wider goal, it tells you that you need to spend more effort in understanding certain parts of things and dig into them a little bit more so you understand what actually is happening. Tracking the right areas and user flows will show you the areas that need improvement in the whole journey and actually allow you to make the improvements that you need. So, using data effectively means confidence. Data like this will help you understand the most important areas to focus on next. Using data effectively will provide you with solid evidence to back up your decisions, where to focus your team's efforts, and help you make a compelling case to senior stakeholders, especially given it's much more likely to reduce costs. And we know how important that is. It's definitely an area I've got very, very wrong in the past in trying to prove my point, but without anything to back it up, made it really, really difficult. Oh my God, my slide is not moving. Damn it. There we go. Understanding the difference between the following will also help you stay on track for measuring the right things. So you've got your vanity versus your actionable metrics. The things that look like things are going well versus the things that are actually telling us how things are going. So like more users signing up doesn't really give us insight into whether or not we need to take action. Focusing on the metrics that provoke discussion or change within the context, like the previous example, will give you a much better idea. Qualitative versus quantitative. Unstructured and anecdotal things versus the things you can actually measure and track. Essentially the what versus the why. Qualitative shows you what is happening, whereas quantitative provides measurable impact and fact. Plus, these are the things that you compare more easily over time, so it gives you a trending idea of where things are going. You've also got exploratory versus reporting. So the things you need to explore are often speculative versus the things that you need to keep you accountable. You do actually need both of these, but you need to start with the things you can report on and then explore further to back up and make your case. The last one is your lagging versus your leading metrics. Historical data that paints the picture versus insight that allows you to predict what might happen next. It's good to track things over time and identify trends and behaviors, but it means nothing if you can't predict what happens next. Looking to the past is helpful and can inform future decisions, but looking ahead means we know where to place our feet next. Wrong lever. When we lack data, we're left following our gut. So should we ever do that? Whilst following your gut as a PM isn't always the worst thing to do, it is important to avoid the assumption trap. And this is when we get caught up treating our assumptions as facts, and it can often lead us down the wrong path. It can also make it challenging. Ooh, too far. Well, whatever. It is what it is. It can also make it challenging to push back on executive decisions to prioritize new development that isn't the best spend of our effort right now. This is an area where I've really struggled in the past. Ultimately, in my experience, the approach of relying solely on gut instinct can hurt team morale, productivity, and ultimately reliability. We spent months catching up on bugs, having to rush through new development because our effort was put in the wrong places. So rather than blindly following your gut, investigate, validate, and support your intuition with usable data. By doing so, you can confidently push back on risky decisions and ensure that you're making the right choice for your product and your team. This lesson has been one of my biggest key takeaways as a PM, and it's why I believe that SRE principles are so vital to successful product development. So, how do we do this? Just gonna grab some more water. We address our assumptions by building out hypotheses and experiments to test them. This approach will help you identify what's working and what's not, but you must establish success metrics, too many S's, to measure progress. If you're not making progress towards solving the problem, you have to be willing to abandon your current approach and readjust. You might even want to set a time limit on this to save you constantly having to chase answers and not knowing when to stop. This is a crucial step in ensuring you're always moving forward and making progress towards your goals. This can also help us react and respond quickly to changes in the market, but we need systems in place that provide us with sustainable data. I've been working with a client on a proof of concept to see if we can find a viable, oh my God, words, migration path for their very complex technical setup. The business value of understanding whether this migration is feasible is huge, and they need to know really quickly. So we were given an initial 3 weeks to investigate and validate the first small piece of this. We agreed on 2-day sprints with weekly refinement sessions and retros to enable short feedback loops to allow us to adjust direction quickly based on the findings of each sprint. We used Miro to collaborate and kept everything in one Miro board to reduce friction and keep everything in one place. We also used this time to clearly define our goal and build out hypotheses against achieving this, prioritizing the experiments we wanted to run into one backlog, and we needed to know what we needed to track to get the answers. I.e., if we do this, it should produce this, track and measure the results. Agility and communication was key here. We needed to turn ideas into actions quickly and iterate fast so we can abandon an experiment and move on to the next if we weren't answering the question. This ensured we were prioritizing the right thing to deliver in a short time frame, and we did. So in summary, while gut instinct can be helpful, it's important to approach it with a healthy dose of skepticism. By investigating, validating, and supporting your intuition with data, you can make more confident decisions. You need to track the things that will provoke discussion and build out hypotheses and run experiments against them if you're lacking the answers that you need. Define the markers of success for these experiments and be ready to, ready to abandon them if you move on to the next thing that's not working. Every time an experiment fails, or your hypothesis falls through, or your assumption was wrong, you are one step closer to getting it right. These methods provide a framework for building reliable and scalable software systems that can help you achieve your goals. And finally, empathy, which speaks quite heavily to DevX. Despite my own personal vendetta to put more empathy back into the world, empathy is crucial to your team's success. It's important to prioritize the user experience, but also extend the same empathy to your teams and their experience. We speak all the time as product managers about the importance of understanding the end user, being empathetic to their needs, and delivering value, and all the activities that we can use to get to the root of their problems. But your teams need the same attention. People build products, even in the emerging world of AI, at least for now, and usable developer or internal tools are just as crucial as end user products. Efficient and user-friendly internal tools enable developers to work productively and collaboratively, leading to better end user products. For example, a bug tracking system can help developers quickly identify and resolve issues, while a project management tool can help ensure that development tasks are completed on time and within budget. By investing in usable internal tools, companies can improve the quality of their end user products and ultimately enhance customer satisfaction. If they're slow and clunky and unreliable, it only hinders your team and leads to unnecessary frustration. Dedicating time to a good developer experience builds confidence. Confidence in turn leads to trust and efficient ways of working, which will enable reliable product development. And ultimately, reliable products, of course, create happy users. So everybody wins. The last part of this is actually setting your teams up to thrive. Ensuring the success of your teams goes beyond just setting clear goals and deadlines. It also means ensuring psychological safety and providing access to resource and support. And these are some of the approaches I take to achieve this. One is allowing individuals to take ownership of their mistakes. Instead of blaming someone for a problem, establish systems for dealing with them. Hold postmortems following a major issue that can be turned into learning opportunities for everyone involved. Regular feedback loops like retros are also imperative for team health and monitoring risk, and they allow teams to air grievances in a structured way that turns detracting experience into improvable actions, and will encourage people to become more open with owning mistakes as a team. The next one is celebrating your team's successes. We should be our team's #1 cheerleader. Shout them out in company meetings, on Slack or LinkedIn or wherever they feel more comfortable, not like Yzma here in her Mexican hat, very upset about it. It's important to recognize that when your team has done well, providing positive feedback can help build momentum and drive further success. On the flip side of this, setting up teams systems that enable you to provide constructive feedback to each other allows your teams to improve. You have to foster safe spaces to discuss things openly without judgment in a manner that will support people and not condemn them. People learn the most from their mistakes, so welcome them and nurture them. Having clear, achievable individual goals. Communicate your team's goals to the wider business, but also ensure that individual goals and performance frameworks are set up so people have a clear understanding of what's expected of them and what they need to do to progress. This will allow them to measure and benchmark their progress against something tangible and not just individual opinion and bias. Last one is crafting a supportive and inclusive environment. Anyone can thrive when they're in the right environment. I truly, truly believe that. If an individual is not performing in the way that moves them or themselves or the team forward, spend time with them to understand their needs. It's important to recognize that not everyone's brains are wired the same. Someone may be neurodivergent or may not know that they are. They also might be prone to stress and overwhelm based on previous life experiences. I don't know about you, but we've all dealt with some pretty intense bosses that have just made our life hell and made us scared of getting anything wrong. And it can impact how people perform in other roles as a result of that. So if that's the case, people might need personal adjustments to how to be able to perform at their best and reach their own potential. For example, autistic people may tend to speak less in meetings due to being unable to read social cues and body language. So they might not know when a good moment to speak is. They also prefer their own space and may need to be away from stimulating noises. Remote-based working can be optimal, or providing safe, uninterruptible office space will help. Structuring meetings in a way that inhibits pushing your way in or talking over someone else. So raising hands or allowing people to type questions in the chats and then have them fielded by the person hosting the meeting can help reduce these anxieties. ADHD people can struggle with dedicated focus, so they might need autonomy to manage their time differently depending on how much they have that on that week. For example, flexing their hours to start later, taking larger gaps in the day, and time boxing tasks can help them get through their work more easily. This will also help prevent extended periods of hyperfocus that can lead to burnout. They'll also experience more friction when switching tasks, so avoiding scheduling meetings back-to-back will help. Asking them to sit behind a computer all day and not move until their tasks are done will get no one anywhere. Every person needs slightly different adjustments, which is why empathy to individual needs is imperative. Not only that, but all the adjustments I mentioned can also be really extremely beneficial to non-neurodivergent people. Establishing ways of working that are inclusive to all types of brains will benefit the whole team. By keeping empathy at the core of your team's interactions, you can create a team that is not only successful, but happy and motivated. Building a supportive and inclusive environment fosters a sense of community, which can lead to greater productivity, innovation, and a more positive work culture. We're all adults, so let's not treat each other like children that don't know how to manage ourselves. We need to trust each other to find what works best and work together as a team to do it. So, overall, as PMs, one of our most important jobs, outside of being the voice of the user, is to mitigate risk. By understanding the core principles and methodologies of SRE and applying them within the context of product management, you'll have a more reliable framework to achieve this. Creating safe, supportive, and collaborative environments makes you a stronger ally to your teams, both SRE and general delivery teams, as well as maximizing team and business success by delivering real value to users in the form of reliable products. If you want to find out a bit more how we do it at CS, you can come find us at our booth. I'll also be milling around for any other questions. We might actually have some time at the end for this if you want to go through anything else further. Thank you very much for coming.